Okay, so I have 2, 3, 5 questions in here I would like to answer now. The first question, and I read it out to you. Venerable, could you repeat the name of the book you mentioned today? Of the books or the book? It says the books. Did I mention a few books or just one book? Maybe I just mentioned the names of the few books that I mentioned today. Do you know if they are in English? The books that I mentioned in the meditation hall today, they're all written in English. And they're not written in Chinese. And the first book I mentioned to you is written by, the author's name is Sun, of course, in pronunciation, Sun Su Yun. Sun is S-U-N, like Sun Yat-sen, the father of revolution, to overthrow the Qing dynasty. Sun Yat-sen, Sun, S-U-N, Su is S-H-U, and Yuan is Y-U-N. In the Chinese language, it's Suan Su Yun. Suan Su Yun. She wrote a few books, and one of the books that I recommended to you today, this morning, is 10,000 Miles Without a Cloud. And this book, 10,000 Miles Without a Cloud, it's her journal of her years-long journey taking the same Silk Road as Xuan Zhuang Fa Si 去过的 Silk been there, okay? The Silk Road. You know, in around 600 to 630 BC, that's about 1,200 years ago, or 300 years ago, there was a monk who traveled in the Tang Dynasty, who traveled from China, Chang'an, through the Silk Road to India. And the journey took him 2.5 years to accomplish. And he finally reached India. He learned the language and the cultures and the Buddhist teaching in 17 years. In other words, he stayed 17 years in India, and he traveled all the way back, bringing a lot of sutras. And once he returned to China, he set up Translation Academy and translate volumes of sutras into Chinese. Xuan Zhuang Fa Si. And he wrote a book, Xuan Zhuang Fa Si. He wrote a book, the monk. I'm talking about a monk now, not Sun Su Yun. I'm not talking about the Sun Su Yun. I'm talking about the monk in the Tang Dynasty. And of course, when he came back, he was welcomed by the emperor, Tang Taizong, at that time. And he was forbidden to go to India before, because there was a decree from the emperor that no one was allowed to leave China. They have to remain in China. But stealthily, he just traveled using all kinds of methods and managed to reach India. And when he came back, he was popularly welcomed by not just the emperor, but the whole nation. There's a long story about that. And he was decreed by the emperor to write his journal about his journey. And that book was called, in the Chinese language, 大唐西域记. So in the Western, translated into Western, is a record of the great Tang westward journey, recording everything of what he saw, all his experiences. And it was so amazing how he could have achieved it. maybe gradually, I would tell you stories about his journey. Needless to say, there's a lot of obstacles he encountered. But then, returning back to San Shuyuan, and San Shuyuan adopted the same route as the Silk Road and traveled following the footsteps of Xuanzang and went to India. It was dangerous too. He went through all those dangerous areas that nobody would go to even now. Traveling Himalayas, traveling deserts and all that. All by herself. All by herself. And she is a prolific writer, very good writer, a filmmaker. And then she wrote that book, 10,000 Miles Without a Cloud. In the Chinese language is 万里无云. 他这个书是万里无云. That's an excellent book. If you want to learn English, that's the book that you should read. If you want to learn Chinese, that's not the book you should read. And also, the monk's book was written in classical Chinese. But there are modern Chinese abridged version of the monk's book. Get that from the internet. I don't get a commission from these guys, but that's what I'm introducing to you. So that 10,000 Miles Without a Cloud by San Shuyuan. And what other books did I mention? I didn't mention any other books other than this one. I don't think so. I just mentioned a few quotations from famous writers. And if you want me to repeat those quotations, Albert Einstein, what did he say? The two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as if everything is. Which one you want to live? You want to live a life without miracle, or you want to live a life with everything is a miracle? It's up to you. But not just taking the words, you have to live through it. Some people say, okay, I memorized this quotation and I can meet miracles. No. You know the idea, you have to struggle through it. You have to build up your confidence through it. That is your motto. That's your slogan on your head. With that slogan, with that motto in your mind, you struggle through it as if you are sailing all by yourself, steering this sailing boat. You're on the steer wheel. You're on the, what do you call that? The what is that? The rudder.
Tiller.
Yeah, something like that. So you're steering your sail according to the wind. Storm comes, you go through it. Sunny weather, you enjoyed it. But every day is a treasure to you. Be it storm or rain or shine. Every day is a value. Every day is a treasure. What does it mean by every day is a treasure? Do it mean I enjoy my TV and watching television? It's a treasure to me. I got to enjoy life. Every day is a treasure. Make use of the time to get enlightenment. Make use of the time to enlighten yourself. Make use of your time to moralize your conduct. Make use of the time to improve yourself. Not just watching TV and talking over the phone and chit-chats of what other guys are doing. So, taking some words into your mind is different from experiencing those words through life. It's just like the Buddhist teaching. Somebody thought, if I can read the whole library of Buddha's teaching, I'll be enlightened. Just the words. If I read all kinds of Abhidharma, if I read all the sutras, I will be like Buddha. If that's the case, the librarian would be the Buddha, because he always bury himself among volumes of books. That's all for this question. There's so many books I would like to introduce to you. There's another book I read the other day, and it was written by, I forgot his name. But anyway, I'm not talking about literature today, so I put it aside. How early should a child be taught Buddhism? How best to introduce the teaching and practice? How early should a child be taught Buddhism? Before he's born. A child should be taught Buddhism before he or she is born. What does that mean? When you are the mother, when you are the pregnant mother, you start to educate your embryo before it comes out. How do I do that? You, the pregnant mother, meditate. You, the pregnant mother, read the Buddhist teaching. You, the pregnant mother, practice the Buddhist teaching. You directly affect the baby. If you get that, if you utilize that time when the baby is in tranquility, where he or she can absorb the most, he's in the school of your body. Your body becomes his or her school. What kind of school you want to provide for your baby? A school of hatred? A school of violence? A school of argument? A school of fighting and struggling with your husband? That's not a good school. We want a school of compassion, a school of kindness, a school of understanding. You build up that school for your baby first, before he or she is born. And after he graduated from your school, meaning that he comes out, he already got the basic. And what is more, you've been forced to build that school. You become experienced in being school builder. Then you will continue and continue to practice and to learn. Isn't that logical? Very logical. In the Chinese language, we call it Tai Jiao. Education before pregnancy, or education during pregnancy. So, if you ask me this question, teach the child not after he's born, before he's born. And of course, after he's born, you still have to pay attention to it. And last month, I was in Hong Kong for 2 weeks. Oh, I'm telling stories now, but it's worthwhile to tell it. I was in Hong Kong. I went back to Hong Kong for 2 weeks. And one of the appointments that have been arranged for me is to meet a lady who has been listening to my radio program in Hong Kong about a Buddhist teaching. And she emailed to Warner and inquired everything about the speaker, that is me. And she said, I really like the radio program. I learned a lot from it. And I changed my lifestyle. Somehow I get enlightened. I become happier than before. And I want to meet Reverend. Can you set up a meeting with me while he's in Hong Kong? So I went to meet him. And I had to bring a lady with me, because a monk is not supposed to meet another lady all by himself. It's against the precept. So I brought my one of the ladies with me, and she arranged it for me to meet this lady, a Hong Kong lady, and she arranged to meet in Kwun Tong in Starbucks. So I was sitting in Starbucks. Don't you believe there's Starbucks all over the world? And the Starbucks in Hong Kong make the most money. Not in here. You know why Starbucks in Hong Kong make the most money? Hong Kong has more than 7 million people. And when I walk into a Starbucks in here, sometimes it's all empty. When I go to Hong Kong Starbucks, I have to line up 20 minutes before I can get my Pike Place, or Columbia, regular house coffee. Not even the espresso, because you have to make it. Espresso takes time. So, not talking about coffee, my problem is I get all over the place when I'm talking. When I talk about coffee, I can talk about half an hour. So I don't want to talk about coffee. So I'm talking about the lady that I am supposed to meet at Starbucks. So I was waiting there, and another lady I brought along sitting by my side. And then I saw a lady coming with a girl, a 6-year-old. She is at the same time teaching her child to learn the mantra of compassion. Remember we're trying to mentor compassion? Namaratna Dharayana Maria Vadakatisparaya. And that baby girl, 6-year-old, learned it quite fast. And single mother, divorced, led not a happy life, but the more and more she learned about the Buddhist teaching, the more and more she got enlightened, and the more and more she likes to carry on, to live on, to educate a girl. So, how do you teach your child? Teach yourself also at the same time. How can you be a teacher? How can you, if you don't learn? Learning is a lifelong process. You be the teacher teaching your baby. You got to learn and learn and learn, and impart the knowledge to your baby. You have to set yourself an example. You must be a life example of your baby. If you're lazy, if you're not learning, how can you expect your baby and to be conscientious in learning? You do it yourself first. The other day I saw a lady who came in with a 12-year-old child. She came in and said, "Go and kneel down to the Buddha and prostrate." So that child, the boy, obediently went and kneeled down. And I was thinking in my mind, why did the lady standing in there and watching everything and tell the child to kneel down and prostrate? How come she couldn't do the same thing? And then I finally walked up to him and said, I was very foolhardy. I was very bold in doing that. I said, maybe, can you prostrate with him? And then she actually went up and prostrate and do this kneeling. How can you tell your child to do things that you don't want to do? The child is just forced to do it. Because mom said so, I have to obey mom, so I have to kneel down before Buddha. But when he grows up, he wouldn't listen to you anymore because he can control his own life. He doesn't have to listen. You have to do the prostration to show your child that he should do it. Not just telling your child to do a prostration. Oh, John, you should study very hard. And don't spend your time in being lazy. Whereas you, the mom, you're watching television for 5 hours per day. You're playing mahjong for 2 hours per day. You think your child is going to be a good child? No. Okay, that's enough for this question. Next question. Please ignore if no time permit my questions or if my questions are inappropriate. Releasing sea life, doesn't it mean releasing fish from some places where they are trapped? Not to kill and encouraging people not to kill. Kill what? Like, don't kill animals? There's no object to be obtained. Does this mean the whole world is an illusion? Well, Lee is smiling at me. That means he can answer the question. But anyway, it's not appropriate for him to do so right now. So, what is releasing sea lives? Does it mean releasing fish from some places where they were trapped? So what did I do when I went to China to release sea lives and land lives every year? We actually go to this fish market, produce market, early in the morning. And you'll be amazed if you go early in the morning to fish market, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. There's a lot of fishermen crowding in there. There's a lot of middlemen buying fish in there, and then they trade it back to the market peddlers to sell. It's a lot of produce. It's a market of more than 500 stalls of fishes for sale, selling to those who sell fish in the actual market. That's the produce market. But they open only from 3 o'clock to about 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. And they shut it for the day because they're not supposed to sell it to ordinary people. They sell to the middleman, and the middleman will sell them in the market, in the supermarket or in any other markets. So the way I do it, every year I gather together all this money. Then every year I go to different markets in different provinces, and I buy this fish, turtles, sharks, sometimes small whales too, very small whales, and seals, all kinds of fish, variety of fish. They were lively. They were in lively tanks. They were just caught. So I buy these fish early in the morning. I bargain the prices. So if you buy a fish, if you buy a cod, say in the market yourself for $50, I could have bought that one for $20 because they make $30 from you. So with all the money that I collect from the donation, with this amount of money, I can buy more to release sea lives. So on top of that, I always bargain with the fishermen. I said, well, I bought it for release. So he said, $20, no more reduction, $20. I said, oh, how about 10? How about 15? And I also buy a lot of shrimps. Shrimps, they put it in baskets. There's hundreds of shrimps in baskets. And they, okay, how much per pound? Per kilogram. So after we arrange the price, they take out the basket and then put it on the weight, on the scale. And I became more and more became smarter than before. They put it on the scale without leaving time to filter out the water so that they get more weight. So wait a minute, I said, wait, give me the basket. So I shake it through and get all the water out, get about 2 kilograms out, and put it on the scale. It's 2 kilograms. So if I let them to put on the scale, it would be 4 kilograms. You see what I mean? So I do all this all by myself in the year 2003. I started 2003 all by myself. And I also arranged boats to ship all this out to the ocean. Not near the pier where people can catch them. With myself and the 2 fishermen, we sail all the way in big junks, of course. So all the way to the middle of the ocean where nobody can catch them. And I start to chant and sprinkle holy water on them, and I release them. I did it all by myself in 2003. And up to today, after 6 years, I already have 50 people coming with me every year. And when I first started, I started with $80,000, approximately $80,000, not Canadian dollars, Hong Kong dollars, which is equivalent to about $10,000 Canadian. So I started with $80,000 only. And now I get $1 million from all the sources. And I have 50 people working with me. I used to get up 2:30 in the morning so that I have time to get there by 3:30. Now I only get up at 4 in the morning. Conscientious co-workers already make arrangement for me because they learn how I did it. I actually walked through every store and bargained and everything. They did the same thing. You also have to choose the kind of fish that they caught in the vicinity of the waters. In other words, they could be selling Australian lobsters in China. If you release Australian lobsters in Chinese waters, they won't survive. They're not used to the pressure. So you really have to study what kind of local fish you can release. And some people have no knowledge of release of sea lives. They just, you know how people release sea lives? They just call up the fishermen and say, oh, this coming Sunday, deliver 100 kilograms to the pier, to the ferry. I'll wait for you. We get there at 10 o'clock in the morning. My disciples will be going there and we'll do a ceremony, and please prepare some food on the boat that we can have a party. So they go in there and they have a party, and all these fishermen arrange for them. They just go there for a few hours and they release all the fish. I don't do it that way. I did it all by myself. I woke up 2 o'clock in the morning. I went there. I do it all personally. And sometimes I look very strange to them. How come this bald-headed guy, is he a monk, walking all over the place in our market, getting all his feet all wet, and he's arguing about this, arguing about that? That's what I did. I got 50 people. And now I even have people in China who did the same thing. And I have people in China who volunteer to pay for all the bus, the 5 junks, because I have 50 people going over there. So they have to get 2 coach buses. And they all pay for that. We don't have to pay. They all pay for that. And last year, there was a lady who was so touched by it. We fly in her private plane to go I've never experienced this before. It does not mean that it's an elevation of status. It means that people are really conscientious. We save the air ticket, because we travel in a private plane. We save the air ticket and we donate it back to the money to release more. So, releasing of sea lives, what is the meaning of releasing sea lives? We don't just release sea lives, we release wild cockroaches, we release, birds, snakes. When we release poisonous snakes, we don't release it close to the neighborhoods, to people. We release it to the mountains. So we have to make researches as to where they can be released without coming back to harm people. We haven't released any bears. We dare not. No bears. But we plan to release some caught wolves, and we release wild chickens. We release varieties of flying animals. And last year, when we went to the mountains to release land animals, we experienced something that we considered very inconceivable. Nothing about supernatural power. When we performed the ceremony, sprinkling the sprinkling holy water and that, all of a sudden we felt a wave of warm energy overwhelm everybody. It's just an energy in a mountain, very overwhelming warm energy. And I thought it's because the fluttering, the waving of the birds' wings would produce such a kind of, it's windy, but it's not windy. But then the birds haven't been released as yet. So later I tried to analyze it myself. It's because maybe the god of the mountain, they feel happy. Because some people caught their members. All these wild animals belong to the mountain, belong to nature. And people caught them for killing them for food. And if you release them, the gods of the mountains, they felt happy. Because look, you caught all my members, and now you're releasing them to me. These guys are good guys. They're releasing my family members to me, back to me. And they felt happy. Then they came to congratulate us. This is what I thought. Nothing about supernatural power. If some people catch members of your family during a war, ready to be executed, and one day they send them back to you, how would you feel? Would you feel the same thing?